Hi Forster fans, I'm Peyton Tabor here on the Coaches Show with Coach Kat, where we sit down each week and talk about last week's game and the upcoming one. This week we recapped last week's game against Lawrence and previewed the upcoming game against Knox. Stay tuned! Hey Coach, congrats on beating Lawrence last weekend and on being 2-0.
Great, thanks. It's always good to start Midwest Conference play with a victory.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we dive into this weekend's game against Knox, I want to talk about your defense last weekend. Your guys held Lawrence to a mere 18 yards of total offense, had a dozen tackles for a loss, held them to minus 22 yards on the ground, and did not give up any points. Clearly, your guys were on fire defensively. Is that what you would consider the so-called perfect defensive game?
I don't know if there's ever a perfect game because I think that Coach Butts was still screaming at guys for giving up that one first down or for getting a personal foul that led to a first down. So I don't know that we're perfect, but we were pretty darn good in that game. So I think that it really serves as a good foundational block to build on. I hope that our guys don't think that that's the final destination. So hopefully that's our focus coming into this week.
Yeah. And kind of on the flip side, your guys were also electric on offense, where you amassed almost 400 yards of total offense. And on special teams, you managed to block 2 punts. So going into this weekend, how do you carry the momentum from last week into the game against Knox?
Yeah, I think that on offense, we were able to utilize a lot of different things, but we also had 2 touchdowns called back. And so I think that on offense, there's a lot more to kind of look at and say, okay, if we execute at a high level, we do things right, we're putting more points on the table than we even did. And I think that our guys are taking that focus, and we were pretty efficient on third downs in that game. But I also think that we kind of took the mentality we were going to run the football a lot, and we did. And so I think that was kind of a building block again. I hate to reuse the same word, but we wanted to set some things in motion so that we could build each week upon them. We did that last week, and I think on special teams, we've always prided ourselves of being the best in the conference in that phase, and whether it's in returns or whether it's in blocks or whether it's our kickoff coverage. I think that's the most understated success we had last Saturday was our kickoff team was dynamite in coverage. I mean, we kicked off quite a few times, and they were able to get down there, and Dom Lewis and Trent Tyson and a few other guys making multiple tackles on kickoff. Put us in great field position defensively, but also just kept that momentum on our side.
Speaking about building into next week, so going into this game against Knox, what problems do they present that your guys are going to need to adjust to and account for?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is that they run the triple option on offense, so we don't see that ever again. It's 1 week a year. You really have 2 practices to prep your team to defend that. And that offense really puts stress on your defense to be extremely disciplined, to be responsible late in football, but also to really be intense about things that are not normal, tackling guys who may not even have the football because you don't know if they have the ball or not, and maintaining your discipline and integrity in your run gaps. So I think defensively there's a big challenge there. Offensively, we know that they're going to put 8 guys in the box and try to stop the run game. That's kind of their base front. Defensively, we've got a little bit of film on them against 2 different teams who ran 2 very different offenses, and so we don't necessarily know exactly how they're going to attack us, but we have a pretty good idea, and I think that we need to make sure that, as we go into this game, we're using the weapons that we have available and figuring out very early in the game what they're providing us to attack with.
You touched on it a little bit, but how hard really is it when you go to prepare for the triple option? Because mostly all the other teams are going to be in the gun running a spread offense.
Yeah, I mean, it is so different. There is nothing alike. I mean, the quickness with which the run game hits is so much faster than the shotgun just by virtue of, the fullback is maybe 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage and the quarterback's under center. We don't see that. I mean, and the harder part is that you have a bunch of guys on our team, most of whom have never been on a team that runs the triple option. So when you're trying to explain them the concepts for your scout team to go out there and rep, they not only do they not know it, they've never experienced it, and by the time they figure it out on Wednesday, you're done practicing in pads. And so you get these 2 days, and it's about how quick can we get them up to speed. And no matter how fast we run it on the scout team, it will never be as fast as what we're going to see by a team that's literally what they practice every day. And so there's huge challenges, but those challenges are ones we have to be excited about and not dread. And I think that our guys are in that mindset.
Yeah. Coach, thus far, you and your guys have been able to pretty much control everything come game day. Despite the scores of your first 2 games, do you feel like your team is making the progress it needs and is on track for where you want to go in order to accomplish all your goals?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the positive is when you look at the margin of victory against those 2 teams in the first 2 games, it's bigger than it was a year ago. And so that's an indicator that hopefully we're playing at a little bit better, more efficient level. I think the negative for me as a head coach is that I want to see our guys challenged, and I want to see that challenge come earlier in the season, so that we know how we're going to handle it. And when we see a little bit of adversity, the closest we've had to adversity really was Wisconsin Lutheran scoring on the first drive, and then having to respond to that, which we did. I'd like to see, you don't want to play in a close game because that means you're doing stuff wrong. But I really want to see our guys continue this dominating fashion against more opponents. But then when we do find ourselves in a position that does, resemble a little bit more antagonistic to us, hopefully we're a little bit more resilient and proving that we have that ability to come back. I think the other part is we played a lot of guys. I mean, we played 100 guys in the game against Lawrence. And so everybody who was healthy got a chance to play. I think that the week before we played close to 80 guys. And so the more guys we can get some of these game reps, even if they're late in the game, it provides them that opportunity that if they are called upon in crunch situations, they should be comfortable at that game speed now. And so I think that's something we just got to keep trying over these first couple of weeks to get those opportunities. And it's always good when you've been able to do that in the first 2 weeks.
Well, that's all I have for today, Coach. So thanks so much for chatting with me, and I look forward to talking with you next week after another Forester victory.
Thanks, Peyton. Appreciate it.
Go Foresters!